Talk 360. Talk 360 for in-depth analysis on the week's news with Latif.
Full on the gang at 17 minutes past the hour. Good afternoon, and how are you doing? This is 98.4 Capital FM. Welcome to Talk 360. Today we're going to discuss women in leadership positions. And I have invited two ladies and a gentleman. One of the ladies is on the way. She'll be here shortly. Yvonne Hamati, Ambassador Yvonne Hamati, one of the ladies, young ladies who is very well known in this country as having taken a shot at parliamentary position. She did not succeed that time, but she has played a very, very big role in politics in Kenya. Winnie Maru is a program manager at the Forum for Young Women in Politics and is also vying for MP position in Tarbo constituency. Also in the studio is the Executive Director of the Constitution and Reform Education Consortium, CRECO. His name is Kawiva Wambua. Welcome to the studio, lady and gentlemen, as we wait for the other lady to come in. But let's go on.
Thank you very much.
Winnie, you've been here before, and
yes,
the last time we were here before, we actually spoke about young women taking up leadership roles in this country. And when we were talking about it, we basically threw a challenge at you. How are you
ready to take up these positions? Are young ladies actually seeing what kind of opportunities have been presented by this constitution for leadership positions after this first election and going forward? Are women really ready for this, apart from yourself?
Thank you very much, Eric. And I'm glad to be here once again today, having come here a second time.
Yeah.
And yes, most definitely, Kenyan women are ready. At least I am ready, and I know many other young women especially are ready to take up these positions. And they've gone out there and they've started working and they've started talking to people. So people are on the ground working hard.
Is the country ready, though, Kawive?
Coming from a patriarchal system and looking at how our culture has been all through, it is prudent to say that there are challenges that women leaders are going to face, especially because of the organization of society by the patriarchy. But in my view, the best leadership that we can get, because in leadership we are talking about service delivery.
Yeah.
We are talking about people getting services, health, in education and in others. And generally, women leaders are better in articulating issues related to service delivery, issues related to the well-being of society than male leaders have been over the years. So in my view, apart from the fact that there are adults created or erected on the way of women leadership by men, who, in most cases, you've heard people who say that even women, their voters' cards are carried for them by their husbands and stuff like that. It happens in this country. But it's a time that we need to say that women need to stand out. Women need to get active in political parties, because even when they're not directly elected, the Constitution, as provided for in Section 27, subsection 8 of the Constitution of Kenya, that there must be leadership of women in the country. So they will be there. And they will be there in the numbers that say that not more than 2/3 will be men. If you look at the current parliament, for instance, we have, out of the 222, about only 20 are women. Very unbalanced. And yet women are the majority.
In the country?
In the country, and as voters also. So I think women need to come out to participate in political leadership. They are adults. Let us be realistic about it. And let us maintain the fight and campaign for taking over of these leadership positions.
Thank you. In the studio, once again, let me just say it's Kawiva Wambua, who is the Executive Director of Constitution and Reform Education Consortium, CRECO. Winnie Maru, Program Manager at Forum for Young Women in Politics, and he is also aspiring to be the next MP for the new Tarbo constituency. It was carved out of Eldred North. We also have Yvonne Hamati, Ambassador Yvonne Hamati, who is, can I call you a civil servant come political activist?
No, I'm a civil servant, public servant. No
Just
politics.
just no politics.
No politics.
Only public service.
Leadership.
All
but
right.
a young woman.
All right,
You
Your
must know
Excellency.
people. Can
Well,
I bring your nose closer to me?
welcome, Yvonne. You have been among the young ladies who have come out in the past to really be agitating for leadership positions, for women to say women need to come out, especially young women. You have seen it over the last couple of years.
Yes.
Do you think we have enough young women coming out for political positions, especially for leadership positions, not necessarily political?
First and foremost, I was on the lift when I heard the introduction, and when it was said that she ran for parliament and did not make it. We say kuteleza sio kuanguka. Actually, I did make it because I sent the message home that young women, I was 21 when I ran for member of parliament for Makadara, and they used to say, Simba wa Makadara akiguruma wanaume wanatetemeka. And that's...
And you were the Simba.
And I was the Simba. And the lioness in the jungle is actually the queen mama, and is the one that fends for the lions. But on the issue of young women, are there enough young women out there running for political leadership? No. Should there be more young women running for political leadership? Yes. And leadership in this sphere should not just be looked at in terms of elective positions, but positions in civil service, in civil society, in the corporate sector. In the corporate sector, we are doing very well, by the way. There are very many young women there. In the civil service, we keep encouraging more and more young women to apply. In politics, as a veteran, because not only did I run for parliament, I was nominated to the East African Legislative Assembly. I have run a political party. I have run a presidential campaign, and I know that young women have a niche in which they're not filling, and we need a lot more young women to come up and take that
Let's
space.
talk about what you're saying. You have run a political party and you've run a presidential campaign. Let's look at the political parties that we have here.
Yes.
What were you in the political party that you say you were running?
Initially, I started off as Secretary for Environment, meaning that I ran for office and I was elected into the National Executive Committee of Ford Kenya. And I think I was the first and youngest young woman, so because that's the topic for today, to put it that way, I would say young person, but for today, a young woman to be elected into NEC of a political party. And so I was the Shadow Minister for Environment, as Michael Kijana Wamalwa used to put it, in Ford Kenya. And I moved from that position to running the office of the chairperson, Honorable Muskari Kombo's office, when he was running Ford Kenya. And what that used to mean is that I used to work with supervising the work of the executive director of the party, the chairman of the party, and dealing directly with the Secretary General, who was Honorable John Munyes, who is Honorable John Munyes, that time the Secretary General of Ford Kenya. And we were running a political party that then became part and parcel of the first NAC government in 2002. And it was hard work, and I can tell you, and I'm sure you know very well, Eric, that it was a bruising battle. and I did get quite a few uppercuts, but I am tough.
But you
as
survived.
I said, lioness.
You survived them.
The lioness.
As Kawiva said, this is a patriarchal society, and Winnie, she's among the very lucky young women who must have risen that far in a political party. Looking at it, I mean, from the other political parties that we have, even the smallest political parties, they do not have strong presence of young women in their structures.
That's very true.
Is it because the parties are not encouraging the women, or the women are not just coming forth?
Interestingly enough, in fact, it's good that this time round political parties are required to have women, first of all, in their structures. And that's partly what I want to talk about, the convention, because we want to encourage more and more young women to come up and take up that space. When we as young women say we are not being considered, or we've been forgotten, or we are not there at the decision table where things are being done, if we don't come out and take up those spaces, then political parties will simply fill up those spaces with the same women who have been there years and years on end, who've been
Older
there,
women.
who've been there since I was in the primary school, And that's why it's important that that young women come and take up those spaces. Political parties now are required to at least have a number of youth there, but you will find that when we talk about youth, a lot of that is actually men, young men. So so this time round, we are encouraging young women, just as the ambassador has said, that there are women in the private sector, in civil service, they've been encouraged to come out. But we're saying, if you don't take part in the political running of this country, because really it's politics that runs the country. And where does politics start? It starts in the party. So if women don't come up and actually join parties and get involved in parties, the same way she talked about, it's a bruising battle. And yes, there's no one I'm going to promise easy. You really have to fight for your space in political parties, you know.
And
Shove
token
and
leadership. We don't want token leadership. You do not, as a young woman, go to a political party because the constitution requires that we need women in a political party. You are going to a political party because you believe you have something to offer. You believe that you are capable, and you believe that you have what it takes. Because we do, contrary to popular opinion, there are very many young women. We have in politics. Let me start with politics. Divas for Uhuru, divers I've also had. Warembo na Raila. We have Vijana kwa Kijana for the Eugene Wamalwa campaign, and so on and so forth. So we have very many young women that come in and they look absolutely beautiful. But the issue,
are they there as flower girls, or are they there?
And my
because
issue is
they want-
this: that spoils the race for the rest of us that are there because we believe in leadership, in capacity, we believe in delivery, and we know that we have what it takes to get to whatever it is we want to do. And now those are the young women that have brains and brawn and muscle. And those are the young women we're calling out and saying, come up, take a position, get into a political party, get elected. Not 30%. 30% is of either gender.
Is the
And
minimum.
is the
Yes.
minimum. And young women must know that 30% is what we shall leave for men. So
Yes.
we take 70%
Yes, exactly.
because we have the numbers,
yes.
we have the capacity. You know, I had a very interesting conversation today with somebody who said, Kathleen Kihanya, a brilliant, beautiful woman, who said to me, God knew what he meant when he called us we men. Absolutely. So that is my message.
Upping the stakes. Upping the stakes. And one of the things that that Hamati is alluding to is the issue of focus. When you're going into politics, when you're going to seek to represent people, or when it is that you're going into public service, what is your dream? Can you define it? Can you be able to sell it? If you get into a political party, are you being driven, or are you part of the driver? Yeah, are you in the bus as a driver, or you are not? You know, those are some of the things that we need to focus on. And for instance, the issue of we'll talk about this because it's really has made me very uncomfortable. The women rep position in the 47.
Yep.
You find that men have started saying now women should not
Vie
come to
for
be
their
MPs
seat.
because we have their seat. And you find very strong women leaders, people who have led before in their various capacities, now all going to compete for the women's reps. It's very annoying.
Yes.
It is very annoing.
So we are actually
and
talking about
therefore that women are losing focus.
Yeah.
Because the moment you buy that that argument from the men, and then you find like three very strong women in a county going for the county rep, not knowing in that county there are like how many? Let's say 8 constituencies, and you are having 8 people run in very small areas, and 3 women run in a huge county to compete for what? It doesn't make sense. And we must be able to refocus and say, what is it that we are bringing into leadership as women? Because if you don't define that, then you've lost everything.
if you don't know what it is that you want to do.
Exactly. In fact, I get that a lot. You know, I go to places and then they keep asking, why don't you run for women rep? And I'm trying to tell people, you know, the thing is, we need to understand the positions in this constitution were increased. You know, there's going to be 6 people that we're going to elect. But each of those people has a very distinct role from the other. So it's not an issue of just because they are positions, just go for this one. My reason for going for the MP position is very clear. because the member of parliament's role is purely on legislation
Yeah.
and nothing else. So if I know I cannot do what a women rep is supposed to do, there is no way I will go for that. Or for instance, the governor, who really is becoming the CEO of the county. You know, if you really are not good, you know, in terms of, because that person should really be a
You
good
must be a good
accountant,
manager,
yes,
administrator.
exactly, really an administrator, a CEO, you know, of an organization, and there's finances involved and how to distribute those finances. You have to be very good in that. So it's not just that positions have been dished and we just play inky pinky ponky and pick any. But that argument, as Kawive said, is actually being perpetrated by men because they want to fix women into a box.
So why are
that
women
there's a
buying it?
position called women rep. So all of you women should go for the women
I
rep.
have no issue with women rep. Let me go to the other side, right? I have absolutely no issue with women representation, and like Winnie, many of my friends and especially followers on Twitter who are actually tweeting right now, Eric, you know, keep saying, run for Kakamega women's rep or Nairobi. Today I was told
It's your
run
best
for
place.
Nairobi women's rep, and that is fine because the more the merrier. Absolutely, and it will ensure that we have more women. You know, affirmative action is about redressing the injustices and the wrongs that have been there before. The injustices of our culture that has confined women to the political oblivion, right? So women reps position are for women. But my issue is not with women reps position. In fact, I'm very supportive of that. My issue is that women should not allow themselves to be sidelined and to be cheated. That is the only position available, and that women must know that we have come at an age where we have women presidential candidates, we have women running ministries, we have women running civil service offices, and therefore what they need to do and what we need to do, our challenge, like Winnie, is to say, fine, I'm supporting so and so for women's rep, and I am running for this position. And I keep insisting that women must realize the third is not for us. It is for the other gender. And for women, we must realize the other gender means male. So the 30% again for women,
From a woman's perspective.
must be men. And that this is competition fair and square. So positions in the civil service, and when we talk about young women in leadership, it's very sad for me to note that when we come to vetting, I want to move away from just politics because we always assume leadership means you're running for
Elected,
parliament.
yeah.
Leadership means you're running, you want to be a judge. It means you want to be the judiciary. It means you want to be a cabinet secretary. It means you want to be you know what I mean? You want to be an ambassador. You want to be whatever it is. And we should not fear the vetting process. If you look at women when it comes in, it's usually biased because we talk of sexuality, we talk of family, we talk of tribe. Women, we don't have tribe. Apparently, so I hear, according to the men in office, that we belong to where we are married.
So you hear.
And so I hear.
Yeah.
And these are some of the issues that bar women from taking up office. And then we have competition from the older women. When I was running in office, I found women like Julia Ojambo. I found women like Jane Miano. I found veteran women that have been in office, that have held power, that have names that sound as familiar as Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, and so on and so forth. And it meant the space for us young women coming in. We were competing not only with men.
You're competing against
We
the
were
older
also
women as well.
competing against the older women who felt threatened by the fact that we were here. We are the .com, iPhone 4, Samsung 3, whatever it's called, and BlackBerry generation coming in, and our styles were different. We dress differently, we speak differently, we are stronger, we are more aggressive.
So you actually
And
have
therefore,
competition from the older
the
older women.
competition.
That's really what we're calling
Men,
affirmative action within
young
affirmative
men,
action.
women, older women. And you find that there are women I have met in this journey that have been very supportive of young women. But there are women I've met that have been the stumbling blocks to some of to our progress that is there. So the battle of a young woman is a multiple battle, and those are some of the things we need to know. But that should not hinder us from running.
We have a number of comments on social media, Capital FM Kenya on Facebook, and also on my Facebook page, Eric Latif. On Twitter, the hashtag is Talk360. Bruja Simia Sirucha says, it's overdue. Women need to take leadership positions. Men have messed us up. But not all women are angels. We have seen a few rotten ones. That happens in society.
Yes, of course, even there are some rotten men,
Many,
Exactly, yes,
many,
So it
many
should not be
rotten
looked
men.
at, rottenness is only because of women. Because if we take this thing down that road, we'll find there could be more men. In fact, there are more men.
Who are rotten.
And
Yes.
actually, the worst argument, and let me tell you, Eric, that really, really peeves
I
me
guess
off.
just to cut you short, I guess the argument that Brutus is bringing out here is, let's not just vote for a woman because it's a woman. Let's also vet the suitability of this particular woman. Because
I
this
like
woman
that.
must also have integrity, must also
Could
display qualities of
could
leadership.
the same measure, that same ruler, when a woman is standing, then we want to say things like, oh, can we measure, whether she has integrity, and let's vet her. Do we have the same questions when a man is standing?
Don't you hear that same
No,
argument,
I
Brutus?
don't hear that. But immediately a woman says she's running, then we have to find out, okay, how good can she do this and how can she do that? Let me also say something. Actually, when Balozi was talking, then I remembered. This constitution is very clear that there has to be at least a third, of either gender. Good. Now, if we get there, 290, and we don't reach that number, I need people to understand that we will have to nominate the deficit number of women into the House. Now, let's say the total number, of all seats, the 290 plus the 47 women in the counties comes about 350. Now, if we don't get the requisite number of that 1/3 women, we'll have to go back to the party lists and just only nominate women to fill that deficit. Now, if that deficit is at least 100, we will be talking about having 450 members of parliament in that house. Who bears the brunt of that? It's the taxpayer. So let me just advise Kenyans that it is important that even as they think and ask all those many questions, let them know that they need to elect women. It is in all our interests to make sure that the first round we are going to vote, we have women elected.
But most importantly, let me tell you, these arguments that are good for the goose and not for the gander. I mean, really, we're tired. Women are each other's own enemies. Raila Odinga versus Mwai Kibaki. Musikari Kombo versus Mokhisa Kitui. I mean, the list is endless. Maina Njenga versus Uhuru Kenyatta. Barack Obama versus, Romney. Really, at the end of the day, that is a lie. There's nothing like women are against each other, and that is why you have seen women like Charity Ngilu, women like Beth Mugo, women like Martha being continually re-elected. They are not elected by men; they are elected because of the progress in their constituencies. They are elected because of what they've done for their communities and their society and their constituencies, and they're elected by women that are just like them.
Are you saying women are not their own enemies?
Women cannot be each other's enemies.
That is actually spoken more by men.
Myth
You
number
hear
one.
that argument
You
more
said
with
that
men.
yourself. You just said here that you're facing opposition from young and older women.
Yes, but you must remember that we are talking about power. Eric, we're not talking about a loaf of bread and being in a household where a mother says, you have the chicken thigh or the breast and I'm going to have the neck. We are talking about national leadership, a share of the cake. We are talking about communities going to war because their person has not been elected. This is the politics we're talking about. And that's why I always tell young women, this is not child's play. It's not for the faint-hearted. Yes, we must have more of us participating and at the front of leadership, but we must realize it's not going to come on a silver platter. And as we fight, those older women and younger women, the fight is the same with those men, because all of us want a share of that cake. So if I am running against Julia or Jambo, she's not going to look at me and say,
She'll not look at
what
you
a
as this
beautiful
young girl.
That is inconsequential and nonsensical. This is a battle that we are going to, and we are saying all of us we are like horses in a horse race. Some of us are pedigree. Some of us are just basic, downtrodden.
They're mules.
I think
mules,
Eric,
Focusing
focusing on this issue, we need to state three things. One, young women must get engaged in political parties, and especially so democratizing political parties. So then that the decision-making processes within political parties, young women are not only represented, but they participate effectively in ensuring that those decisions are made.
Let's tell them how. Because first, young women don't know how.
Come on,
How
Yvonne,
to get
Yvonne,
into how
hold
to get
on,
into a
hold-
political
hold-
101,
hold on.
Eric. Well, Eric 101 for young women. This show is about young women. So and I don't see you as
As
Yeah,
a moderator of the show.
So let me say
I wanna
101 to
remind
young
you.
women.
I
Number
wanna
one,
remind
get
you.
a membership card. Wait. Number one, get you have your ID and get a voter's card. Number two, go to your political party branch office, get a membership card. Number three, when there are grassroots elections, come in
Get
from
elected.
the grassroots.
Get elected.
Number four, mobilize yourselves into such a team and agree who is going to be who in that party. You get a position in the branch. When you leave the sub branch, get to the national level. Get into NEC. What we did in Fort Kenya, and ask those people that were there when I was in politics, that is, not now. But this is a lesson to all.
Yeah.
We organize ourselves with the Kepta Ombatis, with the Brian Wekes, with the Jack Wambokas, and what we did was organize and ensured young people, we took over the neck of the party. Then we sat pretty and waited, and we told the party leadership, hey, now talk to us. And you can see that we were able to take charge.
Here is a challenge I wanted to throw at you, and this was it before you interrupted me. Young women, like you said,
I spoke
iPhone
up.
4, iPhone 5, Samsung Galaxy S3, Twitter, Facebook, well educated, doing very well in the corporate world. They know this is what I would need to do, of course, to rise in leadership position. If you know, listen.
We
If I
assume
wanted,
so.
if a young woman in Capital FM wanted to rise to the position of director in Capital FM, she knows how to get there.
yes,
Number
yes,
one,
yes.
apply for a job at Capital, get to Capital. Number two, prove myself within the ranks of Capital, rise in Capital, become director in Capital. You want to tell me the same lady thinks that she will not get into voter's card to become a leader in a political party? Really?
Unfortunately, a lot of middle class people don't know the process.
My interest is not middle
Why?
class. Actually, the middle class themselves.
the
My
iPhone.
issue is, and that's why I'm saying, let me tell you, if my grandmother knows how to send M-Pesa, why wouldn't my cousin, who is in Eregi, in Ikolomani, and some Idaho girl, not know how
to
to
send
go
M-Pesa?
and get
How to
M-Pesa,
receive.
or how to go and get an ID and a voter's card? And that's why I'm telling political parties and branches are not in Nairobi, in Westlands, Milimani, Lavington, and Karen. Political party branches are in Ikolomani, they're in West Pokot, they're in Tangulo Bay, they're in Kondele, they're in Wajir,
Yeah, she's well
they're
traveled.
in
as well.
Naivasha, they're in absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Because when you want to get leadership and when you want to get into those positions, you start from where you are. That is devolution at its best. If we are talking about devolution, that is where branches start from. And so when we talk about party leader, party chairman, we talk about president, provincial commissioner. So I'm moving, we talk about CEO. There are branches everywhere else. So you must come in from the bottom. And it is not Yvonne who is going to be in Eregi, who's coming up. Yvonne will be in Milimani.
Already, Yvonne is already at the headquarters.
Absolutely.
She's risen that far.
Mogadishu
Oh,
with my people.
She's in Mogadishu.
I think the next thing that they need to do once they get into leadership, or once they get into political parties through the process that Yvonne has explained, is that leadership from the 60s up to the present has been predicated on money. As you have to be rich, you have to have money, you have to buy people tea, you have to give people money. But that process is almost coming to a close. There are challenges, but it's coming to a close. So young women leaders, because they have not robbed a bank yet,
Not yet.
not yet,
Working
must
on it.
must base their move towards leadership through mobilization. You must be able to mobilize people.
Yep.
Because the culture of money is coming to an end, really. It is coming to an end. It will now only need resources for mobilization, resources for mobility and stuff like that. So that belief, they have to get it in their mind that it is possible to get into leadership without having a bank vault in your house.
Through and women are very good mobilizers.
They're
Look
very
at-
good
look at the
mobilizers.
chamas, the circles, investment clubs.
Yes, that's
very
true.
many of them are
Yes.
spearheaded and formed and led by women.
Yeah.
But women
And the
also-
third thing that I need to say is that women have to create time to do politics, to
That's
provide
it.
leadership.
That's where I was coming to.
Because if you do not create time, for instance, let me explain what I mean by democratizing the parties. Most parties, you find they hold meetings decisions are made at funny hours, meeting going late into the
Yes,
night and
that's
in
very
faraway
true.
places. So women must make sure that they move those meetings to spaces that they are comfortable in.
Yes.
And then they must be able to create time, not to get bogged down by details of life, but to look at the picture, because leadership is about
But no,
uh,
that's a male view.
it's
Can I
a-
ask you? We're
Yeah,
talking about young. No. Let's be honest. I mean, really, we are talking. I'm a young woman. I'm what, 30 years old?
I don't know. You tell us.
Oh yes. No.
30 years, okay.
Eric
Oh, we buy
knows.
that.
He wished me a happy birthday on 9th of January when I turned 30, and
Okay.
my present is coming up. But that notwithstanding, as young women, we have several issues on our plate. Number one, career, where to go, how to go. Number two, life in general, love, marriage, family, pressure. You know,
Biological clock.
yesterday I was talking to my sister Prudence, and I kept telling her, "You're next in line," because she kept saying, "Oh, Zalika is so beautiful, my daughter." And I told her, "Darling, you're next in line. We have pressure. You need to settle down. You need to get a spouse. You need to be on the dating scene." Now imagine, there you are running for Member of Parliament Turbo, and you're assuming that Eric there is going to look at you and think, "Wow, what an eligible, wonderful wife. Domesticated, absolutely." Because really, at this age and point, when you're looking for leadership, you are a permanent secretary, you're an assistant minister, you are running for office, it's noodles, let me tell you, men. And so young men also need to give us a break. Now you must realize we cannot do it all, because there is no super cat woman here.
Educators.
Right? No, stand by us. You are talking about childbearing. Let me tell you, the pressure alone. I remember during elections, and the question was, right now, am I ready now to have a child, or should I wait until after elections? And then you say, okay, pregnancy is 9 months. After pregnancy, 6 months breastfeeding, and so on and so forth.
You have to
getting
time
back
it.
you have all these things are issues and considerations that we must take into, and that you must think of. And that's why being a young woman leader is very different from being a woman leader, because the older women have been there, done that.
They've settled down.
They've sent a postcard and they're wearing the T-shirt. So the challenges of being young and female in a male-dominated, patriarchal, chauvinistic, sexist society are absolutely immense.
Let me ask the two of you, young women leaders. Have you ever organized like a forum for young women where you sit down and discuss these issues, where your fellow young women are actually saying, "No, look, these are the challenges that we have. I'd like to, for example, vie for a county assembly seat in Nairobi, but I cannot because of A, B, C, D, or I just don't think this is my kind of thing."
When
Do you?
Yeah, yes, we have been having those, but in a very ad hoc manner, because we've been trying as a forum for young women in politics to go around and talking to young women in several places. But this time round, starting tomorrow, we're actually going to have a convention, and that's the first official gathering of young women who are seriously involved in politics, or who want to get involved in politics, that we sit down and go through those factors and brainstorm together and see how do we actually get involved, how do we get to the decision table, so that we're actually partakers of that cake when it's being cut or being shared.
What do
we're
the other
actually
women
there
say?
and not just waiting for crumbs.
What do they say when they come for those forums?
Of course, they do say it's tough, it's difficult, just as Yvonne has mentioned. Remember, as I said, it's, we talk about affirmative action. But for the young woman, this is affirmative action within affirmative action. Because for her, the struggle is twofold. Not only are you fighting to get into a space that has previously been dominated, from a patriarchal perspective, but now you're even fighting because there are some women there. But those women don't want younger women to come in. They are fine with being there and have been there and want to simply stay there until, kingdom come. So you're fighting a twofold, really, because there's a battle, first of all, to get into this space, which has been predominantly been there by men, but then there's women who have been there from the 60s, from the 70s, and they are not willing to simply just move away or just sit aside.
Or even
and
hold
wait
your
for-
hand and guide you
Yes,
along.
or hold your hand and guide. They say, you know what, you just stay home. You're just pretty, look for a man to marry you. And then, when you're like in your 50s or your 60s.
No one
and then
told
you
me
can-
that actually. That
Like,
is
you're,
what,
you
that
know,
is
you're
what I'm
lucky
missing.
because I get that all the time. You're very lucky because maybe those days people were, were not
No,
thinking
but
in
let me
those
tell
lines.
you, and I,
She was too tough looking.
Oh yeah, she was a Simba or
Eric,
Makadara.
Eric,
Maybe I
go
need to
go
rebrand
slowly,
myself
go on,
into
go on.
a Simba.
No, but the issue is this. In terms of young women's forums, we have networks, we have friendships that go across political party line. Winnie is a good friend of mine.
She's held my hand actually because a lot of the stuff I've actually learned from Yvonne. Just throwing elbows and pushing and shoving people around.
Apparently, she's in URP. I have a very good friend, Paulina Walker, who is in ODM. She's a director of professionals in the Raila Odinga Center Secretariat. Cecily Mbarire and I, we grew up together in politics. When I was a politician and I was in Fort Kenya, and then she was with NAC, with Charity.
Yeah.
And we retained some of these friendships to talk to each other. I mean, Abdallah, who was in Kano, I think she's now in TNA, so I hear. And, we retain these friendships and we hold each other's hands. When I got into the public service, I can tell you the chauvinism that and the wars that I fought.
Within the public service.
Within the public service, because I was a young woman that had been shoved into the public service, coming from political party and civil society activism into a bureaucratic system, right? Where everybody that was in my job group, I remember somebody said to me, "Oh," and I will not mention her name, and she said, "Nowadays, even children are appointed as ambassadors." So the war is
woman.
not just
I can tell you,
political.
she spoke for very many people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, my progress and the work that I've been able to do in the mission that I've served, and it's been 3 missions so far: Ethiopia, Kenya mission to United Nations offices in Nairobi, UN Habitat and UNEP, and now I'm in Somalia, can speak for itself. And today, the same people that looked down and said, "Oh, children are appointed," are the ones who call me and say, "Let's have a cup of tea and see how to deal with some of these issues. Maybe you can help me." So the issue is, and I again repeat, that this is no cup of cake. Nobody is going to hold anybody's hand and baby anybody. This is a decision that
It is
young
tough.
women must make. You wake up one day and say, "I am prepared. I have said a prayer, and I am getting
there,
into this."
the mud.
And your skin better be as thick as a rhinoceros, because it is hard. It is fair
It
game.
is not for the
It
faint-hearted.
is.
I
it
can
is-
tell
it
you
is-
that.
It is hard, but what Amati is also saying is that it is possible. She has done it.
Yes.
Other
Amen.
women can
That
do
is
it.
the key word.
But the point is, you cannot start wanting to be a leader and then you start being faint-hearted and then you want people to treat you nicely.
And
No,
you get
hell
scared.
no.
They're not your
Nobody's
family.
going to do that.
They're not your friends.
And
You are
even
not born
even
together?
family and friends when we are
they
in politics,
still
it
don't
doesn't
know
really
it.
matter.
Yes,
They
they
don't
could
know
be
it.
just as bad.
So the thing is for me being prepared that
Absolutely.
you are able to that first and foremost that women are able to do it, and then you be prepared, and then you mobilize.
You guys
Those
are just
things,
you just taken 2 minutes to scare away very many potential young women.
No, but they better
into
know the
leadership.
truth. They
Not
really,
at all.
I mean, it's important that when you're entering this, you know what's in it for you. It's not going to be easy, and no one is going to promise you that it's going to be easy. It's going to be tough. But the thing is, as a woman, you're also tough. And you can't just sit back and say, you know what, because this thing looks like this, I won't do it. Then men will continue being there, and we will complain until kingdom come. But you see, that's when I took the decision and said, no, enough is enough. This is, at this point, this is where we put a stop to it. And we say, as a woman, as a young woman, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to fight for my space. The same way she did it, someone else could do it, and maybe others will come on board, but people should not get scared, because even in the corporate world, I don't think it's easy. Even if I wanted to be CEO here
It's
in
never
Capital,
easy.
I don't think, yes, it's never easy anywhere. So it's important. I mean, even going through school was not easy. Our parents told us, you have to read and spend sleepless nights. So life is hard. Yes.
You have thick skin.
Yes.
You sound like this is
Oh,
Winnie Maru.
yes,
All
I
women.
am.
Could she
yes.
be the next MP for
I
Turbo
have
constituency?
She has
Daniel
better
Kimutai.
Yes.
Daniel Kimutai says Winnie Maru for Turbo constituency. We need change.
Thank you, thank you.
And Georgie Mock says young women like Yvonne Hamati have done so much for the empowerment of the youth of Kenya and beyond the borders. She sure is a great role model, and in my opinion, she should be in the running for governor of Nairobi because she can do more for
Yes,
the vast
yes.
majority.
Good, yes. yes.
and I
We
hope
need to
that
push
Dr.
that.
Why isn't
I
anybody
hope-
saying anything
I
about
hope
me?
Dr. Kidero and Kisia are listening to that.
Yes.
But
Here's the thing, you know, you are talking about this not being an easy thing for women to get into leadership and leadership positions and rising in leadership, but it's not even easy in the corporate world, and
No.
women know that in the corporate world.
Yeah.
They actually know it.
Ye-
They fight it out in the corporate world.
Yes,
And the
but-
thing is, maybe the challenge is how to show them that it's the same. The same way you get into the corporate world, you play the internal office politics, rise through the internal party politics, ignore everybody else who's bad mouthing you, saying,
Yes.
"Oh, you did this, you won favors, you
Yes.
got this favor, you got this position through whatever else you did."
And women are
Ignore all that and prove that you
course.
can do it.
And women are the best politicians because it starts.
Oh, yes.
It starts right on at home. Let me tell you, a mother juggling children, especially teenage children. You don't talk to the mother. The house girl has gone off in a tangent. Your husband has gone to drink beer at the local, and there's a mpango a kando. And on Sunday, you're all there looking really
Calm.
nice and calm
Yeah, I
as a
see.
family. and that right there is politics and is the ability and capacity of a woman, that a woman can manage childbearing, family rearing, husband babysitting, office work all at once, multitasking. And so as much as we say it is hard, we are saying, and that's why I remembered what Kathleen Kihanya said to me just before I got to the studio, that is why God created we men and women, because we have that ability to bring grace, class, style, and calmness into any madness, especially when it comes to leadership. And that's why young women need to know that as much as it is not easy, it is inbuilt and ingrown in us to take positions of leadership. And we do it in so many other areas that what shocks me is why we are scared when you actually have to stand up and say that
So
I
basic,
can
No,
run.
basically, there's
you know,
potential. The
just-
potential is there.
Just
The potential for women to become leaders is there. They need to socialize themselves to take up that potential, to demonstrate that potential,
Can we
and to
even-
socialize older women, because older women here meaning the electorate,
veterans.
the electorate,
Okay.
because they need, young women need to be supported to become leaders. It does not make any sense for a young woman vying for position, and all the other women that she knows are asking her, why are you doing this? Why are you involving? Get married. For instance, there's that cliche of get married and forget
Yes,
about
Like the
this.
young
you know,
girl in Pokot.
that's the young girl in
and
Pokot.
and
Very
we are
unfortunate.
saying, get her back to school.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Winnie and I,
Yeah.
we need to go to Pokot
Yeah.
and get her
Yes.
and tell her, you must go back to school.
And tell those women who collaborated with the men who
It's-
wanted her to
it's
get
sad.
married. I think
It's
those are the
so,
people
so
that we need
sad.
to talk to.
yeah.
Because if you don't, because she is the mother, or the women there are mothers of children like that.
Yeah.
If they do not
Exactly.
stand up,
12-year-old.
if they don't stand up and say this is not going to happen to our girls, things that don't get to the media will still happen like that in other places.
They continue.
Yeah. So there must be a way in which we break that jinx.
I wanted to say something, about women fighting it out in the corporate world, and then shying away from fighting it out in politics. Let me say this. It is more important for people to understand that everything begins with politics of a country. So people need to participate in the running of the country, in how it is governed, in how decisions are made. Because if the politics of the country, if the country is not stable, if there are not favorable conditions for us to trade, if the economic factors are not even there for us to make money, there will be no corporate world to talk about. there'll be no need for you to rise up in your corporate ladder in whatever organization you're in if the country is not even if the environment is not even there and is not suitable for you to be anything in that organization. So everything has to start with the politics of the country. And it's important for people to understand and for women to understand. If you can fight it out there, you know what? Fight it out in terms of the political sphere and where this country is going first before you can go into and fight into the corporate world and all that. But if you really feel your calling is in corporate world, that's okay. But could you then encourage someone else? Because maybe there are young women who don't have the resources, who don't have, whether financial, whether time, you could provide anything. Then you be there to provide for those younger women to participate. If you feel that that's not a place that you can go, but you can support someone else, I can say, there's very many women who are CEOs of several organizations and parastatals right now. I don't see them coming out and saying, we can't be there in politics. But if you feel you can do it, you know what?
Come out and support
exactly. I will at least fuel one car, or I'll give one car or something. I'll provide maybe 10 mobile phones for your people, your mobilizers to use. Let them support, because then that way they'll be playing a very crucial role indirectly into helping.
But also,
it out.
most important, what we have is something that I can see Winnie Maro is working with, and that she should, the Constitution of Kenya. We keep saying the new constitution. First, Kenyans, please, there's no new constitution. There is the Constitution of Kenya. The Constitution of Kenya empowers, enables, encourages, acknowledges women, acknowledges young people. And this is an opportunity that we are saying that is not just our wish. It's not something we want. It is our right. And when you realize that, a right...
It's an obligation even.
A right, I was actually going to say, a right becomes an obligation. Eric, you and I need to work together.
Haven't we?
Because a right becomes an obligation. And therefore, you must stand and take your position and take your space. So I think for me, my message to young women, wherever it is there, don't wait for anybody to tell you that you can. Go look at yourself in the mirror and say, I was made to be, and do it.
Great. That's your parting shot. What's yours, Winnie?
I think that for women, and especially those who have got the experience in leadership, it is also very important that they consider mentorship. Bringing up younger women, showing them how things are done, showing them how to become better people. Because mentorship, if you look at the cadre of men, there are so many people whose sons, the son of so-and-so was an MP, the son becomes an MP and all that. Yeah. And there are very many of the other young men who become leaders also have got linkages with the male patrons who mentor them. So I think it's very important that older women or experienced women, the Kamatis of this world, although she's not
older.
Or she's not old, experienced.
Kibunja.
Hamati must be able to mentor people. Show me a team of 5 that you've mentored. Yeah? And that is duplicated across to other people.
I'm an example.
This is just one example. I want 5. So then because that is very important. And support, mentoring and supporting women leaders is very important, especially young women. The things that Winnie is talking about, small things like telephone calls, a car getting hired and all that is very vital detail. So for
meetings,
me, facilitation and mentorship, very important.
Thank you. Winnie.
My parting shot, there are actually several. First and foremost is to support young women when they come out and say they're running, because we have a society that looks down on women and then looks down even twice as much when you're a younger woman. I would like Kenyans to change their perception of what young women are. Let's stop this issue of, are you married? Because really, on the ballot paper, it's not me and my husband who are going into parliament. It's just my name. So judge people by their strengths, by their capabilities, not because whether they have a spouse or something else. And then secondly, yes, I can vouch for Balozi here. She's been my mentor. She's held my hand. I've learned a number of things from her, and it's been interesting working with her. But I would also urge the older women to, because Yvonne is young as myself, and maybe that's why it's been easy for us to work together. But I would also urge the older women to come out, and walk with the younger women, give them space, walk with their hand, get in there. But then to young women, I would tell you, don't wait for it. Go out there and take it. Power is not given, power is taken. You have to go out there and fight for it. If you think you can't, talk to someone else, who can, who you think maybe you need their help. But do not be shy. Don't stay in your house and keep quiet with a problem. Go out there, tell somebody, you know what, I want to get into this party. I need to fight to get into this party. How do I get there? But if you don't talk about it, it will not happen. It will not fall from manna from heaven. Getting us into this document to get the space that we've finally gotten into this constitution has been a long, winding struggle. Many women have fought for it. Let us not be the generation that let it stop there. Let's take it on. Let's take the battle further on. Thank you.
Winnie Maru, I hope to host you here in April next year as the Member of Parliament.
Thank you, and let it be so.
And I hope at that point you'll be mentoring about 5 other people.
Oh, yes.
Like Her Excellency Yvonne Hamati has been doing. Thank you very much for coming. That's Winnie Maru, Forum for Young Women in Politics Program Manager, who also wants to be the next MP for the new Tarbo constituency. Kawiva Wambua, Constitution and Reform Education Consortium, CRECO, Executive Director, and Ambassador Yvonne Hamati. Where are you posted now? Mogadishu?
I'm in Mogadishu.
Mogadishu.
And by the way, Mo Farah, Team Somalia. You saw us.
Oh,
the Bibo
Listen,
dance.
you do not
Great
represent
Britain.
Somalia. You represent Kenya, in
Absolutely.
Somalia. Just to remind you.
And Kenya's
just so that we are
but
on
you
the
know,
same
Eric,
page.
it's important that you know that a peaceful and happy Somalia is a peaceful Kenya. And therefore, let me do my job by supporting my Bibos and the people of Somalia.
All right.
Point taken.
Thank you very much.
Now
And
that is
to-
why
to-
you are the ambassador.
I'm sorry, I was right.
To all the young women in Kenya who are sitting there and whining and thinking, no, we need a solution. Be part of the solution. That's my parting shot. Have a great week ahead. My name is Eric Latif.
98.4 Capital FM.
Oh.